Well, let me ask you this then. So, when thinking about a business strategy, as you just referred to, Julia, how does data become the backbone for decision making processes, right? I mean, is that something that has to be considered? That's a gap that needs to be bridged, right? When you go through a digital transformation and you create your strategy, I think that's a major conversation of a part of that exercise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not just having data. So the first piece, you need to collect all possible data that you can legally collect, or ethically and legally collect. But the second piece, data has to be in a usable format. So this is
Yeah.
where data management capabilities come in. And that's actually what digital transformation is. It's making the data that you have usable for driving your business goals.
Mhm.
This is very explicitly seen when you're looking at buying mergers and acquisitions and creating value from the companies that you buy, because a lot of value resides in the data. But if the data is either not present, or even if it's present, it's not available for use, it's very difficult to integrate with the existing, with the buyer's company systems or insights, and you have to spend a lot of money in trying to get the data usable, you basically lose on the value that you've been trying to achieve out of doing that acquisition. Or you
Mhm.
have to invest a lot more, so it erodes the value.
Those are great points. And you spoke of mergers and acquisitions, but I also know that you've worked with and advised several startups.
Mm-hmm.
How should emerging businesses approach their data strategies to gain a competitive advantage? What would you say about that?
Oh, where do I start? This is one of the pain. Well, as an advisor, and what I see of startups, and when I talk to the CEOs of startups that are a little bit more mature as well, when you build from the beginning. So when you come into a company like Citibank or Deutsche Bank or Voya, so companies that are mature, grown companies, a lot of them grew by acquisition, and they have a
Yeah.
huge legacy environment. And I'm sure, Jack, you see it as well when you do ERP implementation. There is a huge, so they have a lot of trouble and they have to spend a lot of money getting their data usable. So it's usually a huge
Yeah.
initiative. It's hard to tie to business value immediately. It's expense, but the CEOs always feel like, yeah, I have all this data, but I can't really make it useful. How do I get value out of it? So then you have a startup, and startup is trying to compete with the mature established company in the space. And they're just starting, they're building this. So you would think that every single CEO or CTO of a startup would pay attention of how they do deal with data, so they actually have that advantage that they can build that resiliency and scalability in how they build their technology and business environment around data, but they don't, because most of the, I mean, there's some that do, but majority, unfortunately, they don't, because data is considered to be difficult thing to do that's going to delay, and they push very hard to get something, a product out that will generate revenues, which is very reasonable. One of the things, when I advise the companies, and I have done it for the companies that I do advise, that I'm on the boards of, it actually doesn't take more time or more money to put the right data, the beginnings of the right data management right up front once as you develop MVP. It's actually, so I've done it in kind of in real life, working with technology teams of a startup. It doesn't delay the release. It doesn't cost more money. If anything, it actually makes follow-up development and development of the features better. Unfortunately, this is not like, there's still a lot of companies that kind of just say, okay, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. Once we get revenue going, we'll have money, we'll do it later. Well, that later never really arrives, or arrives so late in the game that now it's really big and expensive proposition, and there needs to be huge amounts of attention and again funding and time to be devoted to now fixing the data environment.
Yeah. That's right. You do the right things on the front end, and it makes the whole process more effective and efficient. You remove some of the challenges and risk later downstream, right? If you do the right things on the front end.
Absolutely. And you set yourself up to scale to more than one type of customer and to more than one product. Because a lot of startups, start with one product.
Yeah.
So they all, like, as an example, very practical example. all of their setup assumes only one product because that's their MVP. It's only one product. But presumably, if they want to scale, they want to offer more than one product. And then it's either really messy or they create a whole new infrastructure and then they have problem accounting for it, or they have to go back and re-engineer the original MVP, which is full of risk as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Julie, I know you look at and define, as we've discussed earlier in this conversation, digital transformation and strategy holistically. So how do leadership dynamics play a role in shaping and executing a successful digital strategy?
So one of the things that's really important to me is that digital transformation is a business strategy. It's not a technology strategy. So business owner, business beyond sponsorship, it's a business strategy that has a business outcome that drives the business goal of the company. And then you align the technology initiatives, data technology, analytics, AI to that strategy, but it's a business that owns that. And then obviously it's a partnership relationship with the CIO, with CDO, with whatever the title is, chief analytics officer, to get that strategy executed. But again, the main piece is digital transformation is a business strategy. It's not a technology strategy.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jack? Again, in your experience, is that something that you see as a success factor as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that, technology is, it's there to support the people and the processes. And we talk a lot on our podcast and internally at NNA, what we call the triad, right? The people, processes, and technology. And I know, you hear that, right? And it tends to be a cliche. But when it comes to digital transformation and ERP implementation, it goes way beyond, success goes way beyond the technology or the functional capability of the application, right?
Yeah.
And to make it work. So they all have to support each other. It's a bit of a triangle or a triad. Yeah, I would say that leadership and organizational culture and the people is a huge aspect of a successful strategy. There's no doubts about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the definitions I have of data capability. It's not just technology, it's first and foremost, it's organizational people capability.
Yeah.
And then you have technology piece of that. By the way, that triangle that you're talking about, one of the things, the one I saw iteration on it recently that I really liked that had a circle within that triangle that said data. And it touched every line of the triangle. So you had kind of all of that arranged around data capabilities.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot, as you could guess. I love that.
Yeah, and the other thing, that triad, and of course the circle in the middle with the data, each one of those has an impact on the other variables, right? It's kind of an equation where people, process, technology, data equals success. And if any one of those variables change or doesn't exist at all, that has a huge outcome on the output of that equation.